Good afternoon, fellow ruminators. Welcome back to another session, Rumination with Andrew. Thank you so much for joining as we are about to discuss a very important topical matter. Now, this afternoon, we are going to look at Superintendent, Senior Superintendent Steve McGregor, and we're going to ask the question, who is Senior Superintendent Steve McGregor? Who really is Superintendent Steve McGregor, the MP, the Member of Parliament, who has recently, supplanted, I should say, or replaced Lawrence Rowe as Member of Parliament in Kingston Central, or in Central Kingston. Now, that's a very important question because a lot of times we don't know who people are, but he is the one that the party leader, that's Mark Golding, has been touting as the best representative of Kingston Central, of Central Kingston. Now, that's an interesting thing because we know of the allegations made by Lawrence Rowe that he was the candidate and he is still the preferred candidate, but unfortunately he had to resign because he was forced out of the party by the General Secretary, Dayton Campbell, and also Mark G. And Peter Bunting was also in on all of the proceedings. Now, we know that this young man is 36 years old and someone who has been in politics for the last 20 years. So he knows the political tactics and he has been using them to his advantage. It seems to me that the people like him and they desire for him to be their representative as MP, as Member of Parliament. However, he has been denied such a position in the People's National Party. Now, what is interesting is that I shouldn't say we, but the ruling class in Jamaica, they tend to put up a hypocritical front when they speak about young people in Jamaica and the fact that the population is aging. And so we have Senior Superintendent of Police, former Senior Superintendent, that is Steve McGregor, is in his retirement period, his retirement age, right? And he has been called back into the public sector. Now, what sort of thing is that? If you're saying you have an aging population, shouldn't you be encouraging younger people to take up important positions in politics and positions as members of parliament? We know that the young man is young. Well, that's no doubt about it. He's young, but he also has a lot of experience. 20 years of experience in politics, are a lot. It's not something that we can ignore. And the fact is that he has been living in the community. He lived in the community. I understand also that Senior Superintendent Steve McGregor grew up in Central Kingston in that surrounding area. I can't remember the area in which he said he grew up. We're going to read about him. In fact, let's go to him now and look at who is Superintendent Steve McGregor, because, we don't want to, I searched the internet ad nauseum to see if I could find something on him, a write-up by any journalist, even Martin Henry or Ian Boyne, these two journalists who tried as much as possible to be unbiased in their reports. However, I could not find anything on Senior Superintendent Steve McGregor. I know that, I understand that he is very well respected in the police force and among the Jamaican ruling class, including our political leaders. So he is a man who is touted to be an outstanding leader and someone who gave to the criminals. And one of the questions I would like to ask before I go into what Steve McGregor is saying about himself is, if Steve McGregor was this crime solver and someone who was good at solving crime, why do we still have the high crime rates that we have in Jamaica? Why didn't he become a commissioner of police, since he was that good? Shouldn't we have made him the commissioner of police eventually, so that he would be able to solve the crime monster? Because I understand that he's not afraid of the criminals. That's my understanding, that this police here, Senior Superintendent Steve McGregor, is not afraid of criminals, and that during his tenure as Superintendent of Police, that in his constituency, or wherever he was tasked with doing that job of policing, that crime rates generally went down. I don't know how true that is, but we still have an out of control murder rate. And I think that that is where he should then be given that position of Commissioner of Police if Mark Golding forms the next government. But that is not what they've given him. They've decided to have given him a member of parliament position. Now, this is what he's saying on his Facebook. That's Steve McGregor, Senior Superintendent Steve McGregor. This is what he has on Facebook. And I think that this was written on January the 13th, so it's quite recent that he posted this on his Facebook account. So if you want to go there, I'm not reading anything. I wanted to put it up on my computer, but I'm having problem with that. So, okay, so you just have to listen to me read it. Dear residents, so he's speaking to the constituents of Kingston Central or Central Kingston. I am Steve McGregor, retired Senior Superintendent of Police, who gave 41 years of service to my country and aspiring to be your next Member of Parliament. I was born in Moortown, Portland, came to Kingston at the age of 6 in the Durkirk area, where I attended basic school for 2 years, moved to Cambridge Street, where I lived for 13 years and attended Franklin Town Primary for 6 of those years. I also attended the best high school in Jamaica, Kingston College, that's KC. After graduating from KC, I joined the Jamaica Constabulary Force, right? So that's the JCF, right? And we know the sort of clout that Kingston College plays in Jamaica, right? Good high school. I taught there, so I know that it is in fact a very esteemed high school. As someone who was raised in the Central Kingston constituency, attended primary school and high schools there, played football and ran through the same gullies with other young boys in this constituency, I understand your needs and I am the best person to represent you in Parliament. So he's suggesting to his constituents that he is the best person to represent them in the constituency of Central Kingston. Now, we must understand also that the big ego that Kingston College, past students have, right? Even the students at Kingston College have this, the brave may fall, but never yield, right? They have this, out of control. I shouldn't say out of control, but they are very, very proud of their academic institution, KC, right? That the brave may fall, but never yield, right? And they have this humongous, I should say, self-confidence. During my commanding officer years for the Kingston Central Division, I policed with the consent of the people, making the citizens of the centerpiece, of all of the policing strategies used to manage crime and violence in the communities. So he suggested that the people were at the center of his leadership and that he ensured that they were safe, right? This is what Senior Superintendent Steve McGregor is intimating. In fact, I initiated an anti-crime or anti-crime plan, which saw a 65% reduction in murders, right? So this guy is a tremendous asset as far as the reduction in crime and violence, the murder rate is concerned. But the fact is that they're not using him, or they are not going to use him for this position. They prefer for him to function in the capacity as Member of Parliament. The then Commissioner of Police, Mr. Owen Ellington, lauded my work in Kingston Central and said, Supt, Steve McGregor, and his team in Kingston Central were able to hold murders to 18 for the year, which is an outstanding achievement given the history of the division. So he was able to bring down the murder rate in his division to 18. And former Commissioner of Police, Owen Ellington, I beg your pardon, was very, lauded his efforts at bringing down the murder rates. I will be a representative for all the communities in Central Kingston. That's what he's suggesting. Spoilers, Top Road, South Side, Almond Town, Raytown, Tel Aviv, even Gold Street, Fleet, Street and Tower Street, to name a few. So all of these are, communities within that Kingston Central constituency. I will crank up a love train rolling through the communities to spread love, right? Just kind of like Kamala was spreading love, right? And peace and joy, right? So he's also on the joy and the happy train, the train of love to inspire love and unity, right? In that community. And that is good, right? But we just hope that these are not superficial words being used and that his words are not going to be put in action or into action to inspire, to empower, and to ultimately create safe communities so that you, your children, and the rest of your family can be safe. Now, I wonder if superintendent is going to live in the senior superintendent, Steve McGregor, is going to live in that community. I doubt it, but he's going to protect the people there, right? And is he going to be functioning in those two capacities as member of parliament and superintendent of police? I don't know. How will that gap be crossed? Will there be conflicts of interest in terms of his policing demeanor and how he knows how to manage things, because that's what he has been for over 41 years, a police, right? So the fact is that his entire persona, his entire demeanor, the entire psychology that he'll be using is going to be devoted to policing tactics or techniques. That is what I think, because that is what he has never worked in another capacity, right? Now, when your communities are safe, they become more attractive to investors, improve the quality of life for residents, which is true. I've been saying this on this channel or that on this channel, offer a stable foundation for sustainable growth. They like the word sustainable growth and development, ultimately reducing the fear of crime, which is very critical in our country today. Now, one of the things is that everybody's good at solving crime. The only thing that we're seeing, the only problem to that sort of statement, to that sort of pronouncement, is the fact that we are one of the most murderous countries in the world, not just in the region, but in the world. We are one of the most murderous nations in the world, yet this man who is so great at solving crime was not given, I should say, the position of commissioner of police, right? He was superintendent, but he was not. He probably should have been given, shouldn't he have been given the position of a commissioner of police instead of member of parliament? That's just a question. You can probably answer that question. Believe in Steve. He's he's actually admonishing that his constituents believe in him. Believe in Steve and get on board our love train, the love train. I am looking forward to serving you. And he says yours in comradeship, right? Because he's comrade senior superintendent Steve McGregor. Now, what really, I had to read the comments, after this posting on Facebook to see if the people there, at least a representative, would be clamoring for him, right? Would be praising his efforts, and just a few were. The large majority of the comments were not positive about his stewardship as a police. These are the citizens. And I have been saying to you that you have to distinguish between Jamaica of the ordinary man and Jamaica of the ruling class and the people who actually disseminate the philosophies and the sentiments of the ruling class. And obviously, what we hear from officialdom in the news media are the sentiments of the ruling class. So when you hear that somebody down there is outstanding, he's great, he's well respected, he's respected because he's respected by the ruling class. However, if the people should respect him, in most cases, he's not going to be respected. Right? If he's an ethical, moral, upstanding citizen, in most cases, he's not going to be respected by the ruling elites in Jamaica. And that is why we have a criminal infested society. We have a murder rate that is out of control. Now, this is given by, I'm not going to call names, one of the commenters. You don't have to remember people that you was a police officer. Don't advertise yourself in police khaki uniform, put on the orange, and bet nobody remember you, right? Sometimes when Jamaicans write, you don't know what they're talking about, but I have to be patient here, right? Criminals don't like law enforcement. This is one of the commenters saying. The evidence is clearly visible. Laborats don't like law and order. They love free giveaway and thieves, right? So I guess laborats means labor rights, huh? Now, how is it then that the PNP has the most garrison in Jamaica? This is one of what the commenters are saying. Let me see what the response was. How you don't know that when you make a deal out of things, the PNP do, and nothing PNP does don't surprise me. Nothing PNP does don't surprise me because there is no such thing as a clean PNP. Anybody say he was not liked in Kingston Central is lie. Everywhere he policed, he was liked. All right, so that was good. That was a good comment. That everywhere he policed, he was liked. And this respondee said to that person who responded, "Lie you tell." Right, so that person disagreed. You know him? He was my junior when I served. Yes, I know him. He was my junior in high school. So they're actually playing. But hear this, we residents in Southside, especially in the Fleet, St. and Tower Street area, our rights used to be violated, right? So this is what a respondent is saying by McGregor and fellow police officers when they used to lock down Fleet and Tower Street, or basically all Southside, which is JLP Stronghold and Tel Aviv, and spoilers to free for business right, though we remember McGregor, right? So he's saying that McGregor's tenure there was not pretty, and it was very autocratic, authoritarian. That is what that commenter, that person who commented, was suggesting. All you do and your minions try stop him. And it went on. Every police officer, this is what I wanted to read, every police officer who entered into politics on both sides never win a seat, and he's no different. Is that true? Let me read it again. This person suggested every police officer who entered into politics on both sides, whether they are JLP or PNP, never win a seat, and he's no different. So they're suggesting that he's going to lose. That person there is suggesting that Senior Superintendent Steve McGregor is going to lose the election, is going to lose that position because police are not known to have won any political seat. And that might be true because police have never had any trustability, right? Their trust rate in Jamaica is quite low. Citizens don't trust most police officers, right? Are you still a police officer? Take off the government uniform and put on your orange suit. Everyone knows that you were a PNP police. You don't have to remind anyone, right? And the list went on, and most of the comments were negative, and they were not in support of Senior Superintendent of Police. Yet, well, Senior Superintendent Steve McGregor, right? I should say. Now, why is it that Mark Golding and Peter Bunting and Dayton Campbell, are of the illusion that the people want him, the people in South Central, in Central Kingston, desire him to be their MPs? I don't know. I really don't know, right? I really don't know what is happening. But here is a newspaper article written in the Jamaican Gazette, right? The Jamaican Gazette Online, so JamaicanGazette.com. And the title of the article is Steve McGregor, new PNP caretaker for Central Kingston, because they have voted, if you have not known yet, Lawrence Rowe, and he seems to have just capitulated and he resigned. Now, there's something that I need to also clarify about, Lawrence Rowe. I am understanding that the 15 million that was, is being touted and being, rumored to be hushed funds or hushed money is not so. I understand that, Lawrence Rowe spent some money out of pocket, my understanding, which amounted to $15 million. And he is demanding that the PNP reimburse him, right? So if they do that, that is not hush money. That's what happened. I'm not saying that's the case, but that's another side to the story, that he actually spent funds or monies that seemed to be his or something that he thinks he need to be reimbursed, refunded. And that is what he was asking for. So we need to be careful of, spreading rumors in terms of the PNP was willing to pay him $15 million to leave the seat, right, to vacate that position. Now, Steve McGregor, new PNP caretaker for Central Kingston, retired Senior Superintendent Steve McGregor, is the new People's National Party caretaker for Central Kingston. He quickly extended an olive branch to former caretaker Lawrence Rowe. Plus, he emphasized the need for unity within the constituency. On Wednesday, party leader Mark Golding introduced Mr. Steve McGregor to the PNP supporters in the constituency. He is the party's candidate for this year's general election, right? And that's what he's suggesting, even though this is not through a democratic process. Mr. McGregor addressed the tension surrounding his election after former caretaker Mr. Lawrence Rowe claimed that he was pushed out. Of course, if there was no election and the people would have voted, then he was pushed out. Using a relay analogy, and this is what I don't like, this relay analogy, Mr. McGregor suggested that the team that runs in the heats of a relay is usually replaced in the final, but they all get a medal when the team wins. I don't like this analogy, right? I don't like this analogy because one, when you run, I know you can make analogy in terms of running, but in terms of the selection of athletes, I don't think that's a democratic process. That's an authoritarian process, right? It's left up to the coach, right? And the coach team, right? It's not that Jamaicans are going to, vote for who should run the final, because there are times when Jamaicans think that, somebody should run the final or should be on the, whatever part of the relay. And that's not who the coach decides that is the best person. So that, we cannot really, have that analogy made, because, sports in that sort of analogy is not a democratic process, right? It's more autocratic and filled with a lot of biases. I mean, politics also has human biases, but we're expecting that we will have some vote and people, and hopefully that the voting process will be clean and transparent, and that people cast their vote and whomever wins, right? So that is what it's suggesting here. Another thing I have with this sort of analogy, Senior Superintendent Steve McGregor is suggesting that he is the Usain Bolt. He's the one that is going to take over the final lap. That the other members, like the people who participated in the heats of the relay, they were just used to give the relay team a sort of medal to qualify them. So in other words, he's suggesting that Lawrence Rowe was just used there he was just holding down the fort for him until he came. And I'm suggesting, wow, you're suggesting that this guy was just holding down the fort, but at least give the relay heat team, the people who participate in the heats, many of them, if not all of them, know that they will not be in the final, right? So they knew that they were just trying to qualify. So they knew what their role and their position was very clear. But Lawrence Rowe was not clear that he was just being held to hold down a position until Senior Superintendent Steve McGregor entered that position, and that he would have taken over in the final analysis, the final lap. And it is in fact the final lap, because the election is just short of how many months away? We don't know. Right? But the fact of the matter is that this is really a cold sort of analogy. It's almost like they used the guy, didn't tell him what he was doing. I mean, it would have been okay if they had told him that we are just going to have you hold the fort until we find a more suitable candidate, someone who we think will take home the victory. The thing about Usain Bolt is that for the most part, we knew that he would have taken home the victory, because of his previous exploits and the fact that he had shown himself to be that he was a great athlete, right? A world-class athlete. So, nobody was questioning. Of course, we don't always have the best days, right? So we know that his last relay was not the best, but we still know that he had already defended his world-class title of being still the fastest man on earth. But Senior Superintendent Steve McGregor has not yet, been a politician. He has not performed in this role as a member of parliament. Yes, he's a police, but these are two distinct positions and two distinct roles. So how is he even trying to make comparison here? And I think that at least Lawrence Rowe has a track record, right? Senior Superintendent Steve McGregor does not have a track record in politics. He's not a politician. So why is he going to be placed in that position? Why is he not given? Why does not, what's his name, the party leader, Mark Golding, why doesn't Mark Golding give Senior Superintendent the position as Commissioner of Police if his party should win the next government election, next general election? Why? Why is he giving him this position when he knew that the young man, why not, or even if he didn't want to give him Commissioner of Police that position, right? Why not have him work with Rowe to win? Because he's suggesting here that he's going to win it, and because he's the best guy to anchor the team Shower, team PNP. Steve McGregor said he was the Usain Bolt after any relay. When we get that medal, it will be for everyone. From Comrade Rowe, Comrade Rowe, he's saying, will get a medal if he stays on the love train, right? The retired cop reminded his supporters that he was not afraid of anyone and didn't care what people thought. Wow. Senior Superintendent of Police doesn't care what people have to say, right? Even though politics should be about what people care about and what they think. And that should be a deciding factor in what the politicians do or do not do. But here, Senior Superintendent Steve McGregor is suggesting that he does not care what people think, because he is going to anchor team PNP to victory, right? And Lawrence Rowe, even though he is the preferred candidate by the people, even though it seems to me that the people desire that he be their representative, he's booted out. He's booted from the party. Now, one of the things I found very cold about Dayton Campbell, and Dr. Campbell, I find that to be cold. You're a doctor, and you should have some empathy and sympathy. You should have gotten some element of that in your training, right? But, having used the young man, that's Lawrence Rowe, they're telling him that you might be up for a post. You can consider, they boot him out of the party and tell him now that he has all the freedom of reapplying for the same job or another job in a future PNP or under a future PNP leadership. Now, something is wrong with that. So why can't he work with the current PNP leadership? Why doesn't he qualify if the people want him, if the people desire Lawrence Rowe to be the member of parliament? Why is it that he can't be that now? Why is it that he has to wait for a future PNP administration? That is the question that we need to ask. And the journalists there are not asking these hard questions. Why? Now, the fact of the matter is that we are not living in a democratic society in which transparency and accountability are the centerpiece of the political process. We're not. We have fooled ourselves. We have deluded our minds to think or to thinking that way. Because this is what this guy can come out and say. I don't care what the people have to say. Right? Now, listen to what, senior superintendent Steve McGregor is suggesting here. He has a taint of arrogance, which I don't like. Again, he is a KC old boy. Now, referring to Rowe, McGregor said, I will sit him down, talk to him, and ask him some questions. If he's still a comrade, then let's have a conversation. You know, when you look at Central Kingston and you look at the poverty rate there and the fact that these people are marginalized people, and you look at the litany of people who have been their representatives, incredible over the years. No wonder that part of Kingston is not developed. But one of the things that senior superintendent Steve McGregor suggested, that he grew up in that community, in that constituency, at that time when he was growing up, I'm sure when he was 6 and 7 in that constituency at the time, it was a totally different place. It was a totally different place. Central Kingston would have been, I am sure, based on what I have heard. Because if I'm correct, I think even the former First Lady of Jamaica House, what's her name again? That's the ex-wife of Prime Minister Michael Manley, Beverly Anderson Manley. I think she grew up in Central Kingston too, if I'm not lying. Did she? Maybe not. But the fact is that it was a totally different place, environment in that time, in those days, from what Rowe grew up in. So it required more sacrifice on Rowe's part to have grown up in that constituency and also to live in the constituency with all the challenges of that constituency. And the fact that the people love him. Now, if the people didn't love him, then I would say, yeah, maybe this guy would be the right guy. I don't know. But they should have a political democratic process of having a primary, whatever they need to have. I will sit. So he said he will sit him down. Mr. McGregor told PNP supporters that he spent 41 years with the Jamaica Conservative Force, which is, yeah, so you've been emphasizing that. Who cares? And during that time, he built a brand and a name for himself. I made a face, a name, and a voice, and the people loved that. I am not going to change. The only thing that has changed is that I've changed the color. I have made it more personal. I have joined the People's National Party. Right? Da-doom, da 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 na 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 na. No, 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 no. Right? So you're going to vote for the PNP, the People's National Party. Nationwide news reported that when the news that the PNP was backing Steve McGregor over Lawrence Rowe broke, some PNP supporters in Central Kingston was not happy. They threatened to paint the constituency office green if Lawrence Rowe were not reinstated as caretaker. Green is the color of the governing Jamaica Labour Party. So that is what it seems to me that that little constituency, the constituency of Central Kingston, is about to have an internal civil war. We hope not, right? For the sake of peace and the fact that we're having too high a murder rate, we pray God that there will not be a civil war in which many lives will be lost. Now, remember now that when we have these civil wars and these so-called revolutions, as some people think it's, wow, it's wonderful, it's the poor and the disenfranchised and ordinary men and women who die. The leaders often are not the ones who are murdered, whose lives are snuffed out. Remember that. People, remember that. You are the ones who live in the constituency that are going to die. Your brothers and your sisters and your neighbors and your friends, right? They are the ones who will face the brunt of the bloodbath. So don't think about it. Begin to think. And even though we know, it seems very clear that this guy has been shafted, that Rowe has been shafted, but sometimes for peace and sometimes for order, let God have his way, because he is the greatest avenger and vengeance is mine. And when you play the game dirty, we know that dirt awaits you. And whatever you want to call it, some people say it's karma, right? So we hope that leader, the comrade Mark Golden and comrade Peter Bunting and comrade Dayton Campbell are playing the game as clean as they can, because life has a way of coming back for you, and you might not like the judgment that awaits you. Thank you so much for joining. I hope that you'd like, share, and subscribe. Remember now to like the video. Thank you so much for your, for viewing the video, the previous video on Roe. But you need to like the videos. You need to like more of the videos. The videos can be shared with as many people on the platform. Without you liking the videos, commenting on the videos, then it will not be shared with as many people on the platform. Okay? Thank you so much. See you in another one. Adios. Hasta luego.